When you think of the most compelling, maybe most controversial figures of the 20th century, Malcolm X has to be right at the top of the list. He was a man of so many names, so many different identities, and his entire life was just this story of constant radical change.
But that brings up a really big question, right? How does a man who is famous for some incredibly harsh, separatist rhetoric, how does he become this global icon of human rights? To get it, you have to look at the incredible journey he went on.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It's night and day. On one side, you have Malcolm the minister for the Nation of Islam saying, point blank, we're taught that the white man is a devil. But then, just a few short years later, he's in Mecca, and he's writing about seeing true brotherhood practiced by all colors together. That's not just a small change of heart. That's a fundamental rewiring of his entire worldview. And that's the metamorphosis we're going to unpack. So to really understand how he got to that final point, we have to go back and understand who he was before. Because his final identity wasn't about erasing his old selves, it was actually about building on top of them. Okay, so first he's Malcolm Little, a super bright kid, even becomes class president in a mostly white school. But then his life just takes this dramatic nosedive. A teacher tells him his dream of being a lawyer is, and I'm quoting here, no realistic goal for a nigger. That just crushed him. So he spirals out, moves to Harlem, and becomes Detroit Red, a hustler deep in the criminal underworld. And then his first huge transformation happens in prison. He converts to the Nation of Islam and walks out as the disciplined, fiery minister we know as Malcolm X. And in his autobiography, he frames this whole prison experience as this classic story of redemption. Using this powerful metaphor, he's basically saying his life is living proof that no matter how far you fall, you can always find your way to the light. But sometimes the thing that saves you is also the thing that holds you back. And that leads us to the most dramatic turning point in his life, his break from the Nation of Islam. And this wasn't just some political squabble. It was deeply personal. Malcolm found out that his mentor, Elijah Muhammad, a man he truly looked up to as a messenger from God, was secretly breaking the nation's own strict moral rules. For Malcolm, this was a massive crisis of faith. So, feeling totally betrayed and basically silenced by the very organization he helped build, he makes a huge move. In 1964, he's out. He officially leaves the Nation of Islam and decides to go on the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. And let me tell you, this journey changed absolutely everything. He starts sending these letters back from Mecca that just blew people's minds. He wrote that he was, quote, utterly speechless and spellbound. Think about it. For the first time in his life, he's seeing people from all over the world, blonde, blue-eyed Muslims, black-skinned Africans, all praying and living together as complete equals. And this right here gets to the heart of it. His entire life in America had drilled into him that there was this deep, uncrossable divide between white and non-white people. And then, in Mecca, he sees that belief just shatter, right in front of his eyes. He's eating from the same plate, drinking from the same glass as men he once would have called white devils. And I love this admission from him. He's not trying to spin it. He just says, flat out, that what he saw with his own two eyes forced him to rearrange his thinking and toss aside his old beliefs. It was a complete intellectual and spiritual reset, driven by a man who, as he always said, tried to face the facts no matter how uncomfortable. So when he came back to the States, this new perspective fueled the final and tragically short chapter of his life. He wasn't just a changed man, he had an entirely new mission, a global one. And maybe the biggest shift was how he redefined the enemy. He started arguing that whiteness wasn't about skin color, it was a racist ideology. The problem wasn't a race of people, but the attitude of white supremacy. And that's huge, because it means the enemy is an idea, and you can defeat an idea without destroying a people. And he immediately put this new thinking into action. He founded the Organization of Afro-American Unity, and just look at these goals. He wanted to take the struggle international, to stop seeing it as just an American civil rights issue, and frame it as a global human rights crisis. His big plan was to actually take the U.S. government to the United Nations for its human rights abuses. His political strategy changed, too. It got so much more nuanced. Just a few weeks before he was assassinated, he met with Coretta Scott King, and he told her that he thought his own fiery reputation could actually help the nonviolent movement, that by being the scary alternative, he might make white America more willing to listen to Dr. King. It's a really pragmatic, kind of brilliant political move. So why are we still so fascinated by his story? I think it really boils down to one thing: the incredible, raw courage to change your mind in public. So what does all this change mean? Well, here's a fascinating way to look at it. His growth wasn't about him erasing who he was before. It was more like an accumulation. He didn't stop being one person to become someone new. He just kept adding new layers of understanding. The man he became at the end, El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, was really a combination of all his past selves. He still had that scholarly ambition of young Malcolm Little. He had the street-smart fire of Detroit Red. He had the incredible discipline of the Muslim minister. And now, on top of all that, he had this new global, humanistic vision. All those parts came together to make him this incredibly powerful and unique figure. And he was just brutally honest about his own past. Looking back at his time in the Nation of Islam, he called himself a zombie who was just pointed in a direction and told to march. Wow. I mean, that level of public self-criticism is so rare and so powerful. It shows that in the end, his loyalty wasn't to a single group or idea, but to finding the truth wherever it led him. So ultimately, the real power of Malcolm X's story isn't in any one single phase of his life. It's in the journey between them. His life is this incredible testament to the idea that our most deeply held beliefs can, and maybe even should, be challenged by new experiences. And it leaves all of us with a pretty tough question, doesn't it? What beliefs that we hold right now are we willing to re-examine in order to keep growing?